Hi guys, I'm glad to finally be putting out another video for you. It's been probably, I don't know, close to 6 months since my last one. I wanted to do a video about kind of a fallish video. Whenever the leaves change and it gets chilly outside, I think about getting out my crochet stuff and just sitting down, getting cozy and making a project or two. Usually, honestly, it's starting a project, maybe not necessarily finishing it for I don't know, maybe till next year. I don't know. Anyway, I like to get out the crochet stuff, and I just wanted to put together a video here showing you just some real basic things if you're trying to get started, if you need a couple of tips. This is what this video is. Nothing complicated, just to get you started if you wanted to try this, or if you've started and you're kind of hung up on a couple of things. Just a couple of things that I was kind of hung up on when I started crocheting. So Joanne, if you're watching, hey, sorry it took so long to get this video out, but follow along and I'll show you a couple of things. Okay, step one is getting started. You want to start with a slip knot, and if you don't know how to do that, just make a J out of your yarn like this, and take this part and just flip it over so you have a loop, and then flop the loop over onto the long part of your yarn like that, and grab that part that's inside the loop, and then grab your two tails and just tighten it down, not too awful tight. Move the loop like this. Just pull the long end to shorten it to the length that you need, like this. And there's a slip knot. Now I'm going to show you how I hold the hook and the yarn in my hand. There's a couple different ways of doing this, and you just gotta experiment a little bit and see what works best for you. The trick is to just have it comfortable for one, but also having the tension okay, so that you can move along and have your stitches be even and the tension be right. So this is what I do. I just hook it around my pinky and my first finger like this. See, the yarn kind of goes through my hand like that, and I can kind of adjust the tension. Okay, so getting started. See, I hold the tail with these two fingers too, just to hold things in the right place. This first row can be the trickiest, just because you're trying to hold things in place. You don't have any already made stuff to hold on to. So we're just gonna start stitching, back your needle into the yarn like this, and pull through that stitch. Okay, that's one stitch. Back your hook up into the yarn, hook it, and then pull through. And the key thing here is to keep your stitches somewhat loose, because you're going to have to work with this yarn and put your hook through in the next row. So if you do it too tight, you're not going to have enough room to work with it, and it's just going to get tighter and tighter on that second row, and it's miserable, trust me. There. There's a very basic first row. Now here's a second way to start your work. I think when you do it this way, it probably is technically considered your first two rows, because you're kind of doing the first two rows together all at once. So we start with our slip knot, and we're going to pull our first stitch through like this. Now if you hold the yarn like this, you can see the top of the stitch here and the bottom loop here. That's what I'm going to call it, the bottom loop. So you see like a V here with those two pieces, like a peace sign, and then if you turn it to the side, you can see that one underneath. That one underneath is where we're going to go into with our hook. Okay? Get this so you can see it. We're going to go into that. This. I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through one, and grab the yarn again and pull it through both. Put your hook in the bottom loop, grab your yarn, pull it through that first one, grab your yarn again and pull it through both. So see, we're starting a row here, but it's almost like there's two rows in one. You can see the top of the stitches here. This is where you're going to count your stitches, and this is where the bottom loops are along the bottom. Then we have our first start of a first row here. Now the counting stitches is the part that I was hung up on for a while when I first started crocheting, because I would get so far on a project and realize that I'm losing stitches somewhere and my work is getting kind of wonky looking and I couldn't figure it out. So I'm going to kind of give you an illustration here to help you understand how we're counting and moving up in your work from row to row. So we're pretending like we're crocheting a building. So this is our work basically, and here's our rows. Okay, so say you're walking in a building, you're taking steps all the way through this long hallway, and you want to go to the next floor. Well, you can't just turn your work, as we say in crochet, and then go the other direction. You'd be on the same row basically. You have to go up a floor to the next row, and then you can go across this hallway, and then you have to go up to the next floor and go across this way. And that's how you go in crochet. When you're doing work that's rows and you're turning your work to do the next row up, you do your stitches across, do an extra stitch at the end so that it boosts you up to go to the next row, and then you go across, do your extra stitch to get to the next row and go across. So if you're doing single crochet, you're going to do a single extra stitch at the end. If you're doing double crochet, you're going to do an extra double crochet at the end to bring you up high enough for the next row. So I've come to the end of my row here. I want to go up to the next row, so I'm just going to pull my yarn through once. That's one stitch, one slip stitch, and then we're going to turn our work so that suddenly we're at the other end of the hallway. There's V's. These are the tops of each stitch, and we're going to go put our hook in under both of those pieces of yarn there. You're going to grab your yarn through the first part and grab your yarn and go through the other two. That's a single crochet. Okay, we're at the end of our second row, and I have 6 stitches that I've got going across here. And I don't know if you can see this well on the camera, but all these V's going through here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's the one row, okay? So again, we have to do a step up, which is that extra little stitch on the end to bring our yarn up high enough. So you see these little dimples or little holes, those are where you're going to go in. So when you turn your work, you're going to go down here, not up here. Okay, this is our first stitch right here. And this last stitch, it can kind of turn a little funny or bend a little funny, so you really have to look for that last stitch sometimes at the end of the row. And that's where I used to accidentally lose stitches. Is I was getting to the end of the row, and you know, my work kind of looked like this, and I wasn't really sure, is that the end? Is there another stitch there I need to go through? I'm not really sure, and I wasn't really counting stitches very well. So there usually is that extra stitch. I mean, if you're counting as you go across, yes, 6 stitches, that's not hard to count, but you know, say the phone rings, you gotta put your stuff down, you go back to it, oh shoot, where was I? So there is this last stitch at the end that sometimes is sort of hiding there, and if you're ever not sure, just hold your work at the end of the row and count those stitches that you have going across the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches, so we're still good. If you get, you know, so far in a project and you notice things are kind of going on an angle and you're doing less than, you know, fewer and fewer stitches across there, you're probably not making it to that last stitch. So watch out for that. Now if you're crocheting in the round, as they say, basically you're stitching in like a tube shape. So you're kind of going around and around and you're not turning your work necessarily. When you get to the end of the row, you just continue on into the next stitch and the next stitch. So when it comes to counting rows and stitches when you're crocheting in the round, I like to take a small safety pin and put in that first stitch so that I know that's stitch number 1. So when I get all the way back around, I know, okay, this next stitch is going to be starting the next row in the round. So you're basically kind of crocheting in a spiral, keeping the whole thing connected kind of like a tube. So it's maybe a little bit of hassle to mess with the safety pin, but for me it's worth it because I'm likely to just lose track of where I'm at and miscount or end up in a, you know, too many rows or not enough rows or whatever. So hopefully that makes sense of what that means with crocheting in the round. So there's a couple of hopefully simple tips for you for crochet if you're just starting out. Hopefully these will help you out a little bit. And if you have any questions, if you want me to elaborate on any of this or give another example, or if you have a question otherwise about crochet, let me know. This is kind of a hobby of mine that I drag out of the closet once in a while. So just let me know. Comment below with your questions or comments or suggestions if you have tips for others as well. I'm always happy to have that, you know, those comments as well. Those are very helpful. So you guys have a great fall, and hopefully I'll be posting again very soon and not in another 6 months. So you guys take care. See ya.